straight away. Has shown success on that so far, and he's going to try and replicate that with a very early lock-in. Now we have H2k's final rotation. What do you think will be a good set of roles to prioritize here?
I think you go very standard. You take the support and you take the jungle right away. That's most likely what we're going to see out of the Flashwolves as well. We have seen them yesterday go for a Maokai in the very early rotation, but they do have to be aware that they can be punished because there's also a Rumble available for Ordo this
I was
time.
literally about to say, Rumble hasn't been banned against Adewamne, and if he doesn't pick it up now, he risks that getting banned in the next rotation, if it is something that H2k feel is critical to their composition here, Andy.
I wonder whether or not the Flashwolves have a possible answer for it. H2k have demonstrated that they also put a high value on Maokai.
Sure.
We saw how effective Expects Maokai was earlier on into the day. And Flashwolves, they have a bit of freedom here because with Shen off the table, they could look to go for a pushing lane with Nautilus, or they could go for someone like a Renekton, who doesn't quite have the same scaling but has a lot more early game power.
So we're going to go into the next ban phase once this is locked in. Wait until Flashwolves fully decide before we can make decisions. They're going to go for the Nautilus here, it does get locked in. Do you think they start to limit the jungle pool now for Jankos?
It's not such a huge deal, right? You have Lee Sin left, you have the Elise. There's plenty of playmaking potential from the jungle pool so far, but I like what the Flashwolves are doing right now. You got Nautilus, you have Graves. We know the combination works very well because one of the limiting factors of Graves that you can't really hit your end of the line if you're not against a wall, but the knockup from the depth charge is so long that you can set that up very well. Lots of pressure, especially when you're dealing with the likes of Avara. So very strong engagement. So far, H2k has tremendous power picks too.
Looks like Elise is taken off the table for Flashwolves, so Jankos will not get his hands on that particular jungler. H2k are going to respond with limiting maybe support pool, I would imagine, given that it hasn't been picked up. What do you think, Vedius?
I'm actually kind of looking, in terms of bans, I'm actually looking at mid lane, right? Because a lot of things have been banned away. I'm surprised the mid lane bans are coming from H2k though, because Flashwolves could look to early rotate something like an Orianna.
Yeah.
But then you're also opening the window for H2k to go, okay, well, maybe it's time for Zed, right? Like, it's not something that we haven't seen from Febiven in the past, and you already know the majority of the composition from the Flashwolves too. So there's a lot of freedom for H2k to ban away these mid laners. I'm just surprised that Flashwolves are investing so many of their early bans into, I mean, it makes sense into the jungle pool, but I don't think it's going to hinder Jankos.
Well, here's the thing though, they're limiting very specific champions in the jungle.
That's true.
The utility guys. So that means Lee Sin and Kha'Zix are up. So they're putting the emphasis on Jankos. You're going to have to play a carry and not provide utility for your team. Rely on the entirety of your other guys, which means that the composition might be thwarted if all the efforts were placed on Jankos earlier.
So Zyra, the final ban for H2k, trying to limit that from Flashwolves, and looks like Vedius throws his hands up because Orianna is being considered here for Maple in the mid lane. We'll have to see whether they lock that in, which would then leave the next rotation up to H2k.
I mean, like, it's a very strong, safe pick right now, simply because you can't pick the Cassio into it because it's a pretty difficult matchup. And then you think of what else is left available. Yes, you could go Azir, but it's kind of risky. And now I feel like H2k are considering the Zed right now. It's a little bit risky against the Nautilus, but it's a possibility.
However, the biggest risk with Zed right now is that the support pool hasn't been touched. Tahm Kench is still up, which means that it has a great time against Malzahar. The Ashe Tahm Kench lane is so important for roaming towards other lanes and really surprising your opponents, and it frees up Sword to make a lot of plays.
It looks like Kha'Zix locked in for Jankos. He's going to take that carry potential role, and now Febiven is considering his mid laner.
There are a lot of options available for Febiven. I mean, he has the safety if he wants to. Yeah, so it is the Azir. This was something that we were discussing. It does fine into Orianna. You have the range advantage. You can push her out. And when you look at the composition from H2k, they actually have very potent sieging tools in their kit. Their team fighting is pretty powerful.
It's pretty god tier late game out of H2k.
Yeah, it's pretty god tier late game.
There's the Tahm Kench. So that was in the minds of Flashwolves. It's going to be the second Azir of the tournament. Suddenly he has sprung into popularity, and Febiven is going to be the man to pilot him as well as the soldiers.
It's a great pick for keeping short-range carries like the Graves at bay, right? He deals with it very well. But notice how mid laner from Febiven is not going to be taking that cleanse, which will be very difficult. You know that Betty, his main champion is Ashe. You get hit with an arrow, you got nobody else to protect you.
Absolutely. Guys, we are very quickly heading onto the Rift, and that means I'm going to come to you for predictions. Actually, I'm going to start with VoDs this time round.
I'm actually looking at the flash walls right now. I know the audience won't be too happy about it, but I like their pick power. I like the tools that they have in their kit, and I'm excited to see them go up against H2k, but it's definitely the flash walls for me.
Yeah, you take the previous games that both these teams have played, and it's hard to side with H2k. Maybe the confidence from one game will swing the matchup around, but game one, flash walls for me.
The public does not agree, and that's going to be 66% in favor of H2k and 34% going over to the Flash Wolves there. Now, it is time to hand over to our incredibly capable casters taking us through this first game of the day. Froskurian and Dracos, over to you.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. Thrilled to be here, excited to see how this game one unfolds, and I think very capable, maybe a little generous. We'll start with capable for now.
I've popped like 17 flavors of G Fuel backstage, so if I start spazzing out on the cast, you know what happens.
All 17.
All 17, they're delicious.
Posting up, H2k, of course, coming in on the blue side of the map, Flash Wolves on the red. First to 2 wins will find themselves in the final. Will it be Europe versus Europe? Will we have it be the LMS going head-to-head with G2? Teams now leaving the base, and Froskurian. We got a Graves, we got a Kha'Zix. I feel like this is going to be an explosive early game.
It's not just about the champion selection. Again, I know the devs, they talked about it, that it's more so the rest of the map, that we don't want just the focus on Jankos and Karsa, but these are the 2 most aggressive junglers in this tournament, and they've got champions that have great dueling potential against each other. I'm going to weight it towards Karsa on the Graves. He's got the range advantage. That said, if Jankos can make use of Fog of War, he can certainly punish that.
And Jankos and Karsa have been the 2 to get pretty solid gold leads coming in. They've been on par with each other around the 10-minute mark, but as we get closer and closer to 15 minutes, we see Karsa consistently pulling ahead in terms of gold, and gotta see if Jankos can keep up this time around.
And you also have to note the priority of Flash Wolves, the fact that they had more confidence to early pick the Graves versus the Kha'Zix. A lot of the Asian teams have been prioritizing the Bug versus Graves, although my personal opinion is that I feel like Graves is probably the most powerful jungler on the current patch, just because he has such great dueling potential, scales so well, and jungles so quickly.
Oh, and it's so terrifying too, because if you get that one successful gank on the top side of the map, Graves just instantly tanks that turret. We are going to see interesting jungle starts coming out, the Maokai saplings, we've kind of learned to expect as more and more as the tournament went on, but Nautilus coming down to help the Graves as well.
And he doesn't necessarily have to help Graves here, but it's just going to give Karsa that little extra step. But should be noted, it means both top laners will be a little bit delayed towards the top side of the map. If we look at kind of traditional matchups, typically Nautilus does get push priority on Maokai, so theoretically Flash Wolves could have control over the top side of map, whereas if you look bottom with the Malzahar and the line wave clear from Varus, H2k should have push priority on bottom side of the map to open up for Jankos there.
And we're seeing it already. Shay using that range advantage, using the Void Lings, really punishing Sword Art here before that Thick Skin comes up and available. Additionally, seeing how the teams are going to position their junglers. Karsa already pathing towards the bottom side of the map.
And it is to be noted that both junglers started that Raptor camp there. So sapling start, like we said, very common, but it means that junglers are on opposite sides of the map, so there are windows where we could see possible ganks where there wouldn't be an answer.
And right now, you can say Nautilus has push priority, that Riptide endlessly allowing him to shove in, but it means that he's in prime position for Jankos to go up there, to use the Twisted Advance with the Maokai to set him up for those early kills. If there's a time for the First Blood King to show up big, it is here in Game 1. Everything on the line for this H2k team.
And that's always the big question mark. You know, what kind of H2k are we going to get? We saw 3 games against Hong Kong esports yesterday, and they look completely different in every single one of them. Probably the most impressive was when Jankos got off a gank in every single lane before 5 minutes. But hold on.
Karsa trapped in here with the Void Blinks. This isn't what he wanted. Has the smite to regain the health. He's going over the wall. I don't know if Che can still take this fight. Graves does so much damage. Che has he overstepped his welcome. Karsa wants to get in. First blood drops for Flash Wolves.
And beautiful execution from Karsa to flash forward and then throw the E so he gets the immediate bounce off the wall.
Solid play overall. Che, you gotta understand, he's so hungry to get that kill, but you cannot disrespect the Graves when he's got double buff, when he has all that early damage.
And ultimately, not only does it put Karsa ahead, it also puts Nuclear behind, and that can be so punishing against the likes of Betty and Sword Art. We already know that Sword Art's an incredible player. Betty, formerly known as Double Red, it's the same guy. Huge step over NL, and Flash Wolves' bottom lane have kind of become the new string in their bow.
So happy to have it after years of really it being all about Maple and Karsa. Happy to have another lane to play around. It is this bottom lane. With Che out of the lane, it has given priority back to the side of Flash Wolves.
And I feel like the one place that H2k can actually really punish Flash Wolves is in the top side of the map. And you see that with Odo. He got the return push. Obviously, the wave would build up, so it did help him kind of bounce it back. But he's had a great tournament. MMD, yes, he's stepping up, but I feel like Odo, he has the higher skill cap, and he can really exploit this if they look top lane with that Kha'Zix-Maokai matchup.
Yeah, looking maybe to set up Jankos to snowball this game, to get those early kills, but for now it's Jankos just picking up what he can as Karsa continues to counter jungle. Karsa hasn't backed yet, hasn't bought, so that first blood not too big of a factor. However, it's only going to be scarier to fight that Graves as we move forward in this game.
It's actually been staying on the map for quite a long time. Normally when I track Karsa's back timers, he's actually a very efficient jungler. There's no wasted effort. He doesn't really hang around for ganks, whereas Jankos has been known to sit in brushes for up to 15, 30 seconds looking for the perfect fight. But Karsa getting his back delayed now.
A little bit. It does get level 5 though off the back of a creep. Nice to stand in EXP range, even if it doesn't make Maple too happy. And Jankos not going to find that fight, not going to find the bush to hide in either. But bot lane is really starting to look bad for the side of H2k. They have lost out completely push priority. Che's level 3, but Sword Art just picks the minion up and spits it right back at him.
And naturally, it also does put Che behind in the experience, but there's going to be a big difference in terms of your 2v2 power when he does get that level 6 versus the Tahm Kench. So it's not as punishing as it could be on other matchups because it is that Kench.
Kench still taking a decent amount of damage here, but the Voidling's not going to get a chance to replicate. And normally I'd say it'd be so rough. You got to be careful. The Varus, the Malzahar, the setup for these early kills, but Tahm Kench is right there. So even when they get that level 6, I don't know how much of a threat they're really going to be on the bottom side of the map.
Although, hold on. Mid lane, Odo taking a stroll.
Maple no mana, but not going to walk close enough to that bush. Saw Mickey's mistakes in our last series, not wandering towards that top side.
And it was pretty clear that he wanted to back right there, pulling Karsa over to the mid lane, trying to reset the wave or get it pushed in so Feb couldn't look to freeze it in front of his tower. So I like the fact that Odo was looking for that window where he had the push priority.
Oh.
That would have been scummy.
Karsa says, you delay my back? Oh, I'm going to get you. Not a large advantage, of course, doesn't get it in the end. We look at the first backs. Lost Chapter coming in for Orianna, working towards the Nashor's Tooth on the side of Febiven. And this mid lane matchup, not one we've seen in a long time, I'd say. The age of control mages in the mid lane kind of disrupted by all the lethality users coming into play. But Nuclear has to be careful here. Heal comes out. Flash Wolves just owning the bottom side of the map.
And it goes back to Betty on this Ashe. Now, Flash Wolves have shown that in the draft phase, they were fine to give away the priority pick of the Varus. They'd rather take the LeBlanc off the board. We know that they're much more comfortable with the Ashe. It's one of the champions that Betty is best well known for. Wow, a lot of
best well known for. Love it.
Best well known for. Good Ashe player. Nailed it.
Works out in the end.
But the thing about Ashe into Varus is that she's such a bully under the tower, and she can compete with his pushing power. I don't think there's almost any more AD carry that is a bully just because of the volley spread there. I mean, maybe Varus with Piercing Arrow, but...
Yeah, the Piercing Arrow, of course, so strong, and he's going to itemize his lethality, which in a lot of cases is going to give him an edge, but now he's going up against the BF Sword Ashe. Farm, though, pretty dead even despite the early mistakes from Che, so while it's not the advantage they wanted on the bottom side of the map, H2k haven't completely lost out here either.
Question is if Sword Art's going to disappear for a little bit, maybe get that cheeky early level 6 on either Varus or Ashe. Varus actually has it right now.
We have seen the setup there. Varus locks him down. Malzahar happy to throw those Voidlings in. They may be weaker on this patch, but still absolutely lethal if they're given the time to just wail away.
That is how Betty and Sword Art turned the tables on Sven and Mithy when they faced off and got the first blood on G2's bottom lane. Now that said, Sven and Mithy were heavily winning the trade. In fact, so hard that they forced Sword Art to get out of the lane and then gave solo EXP to the AD carry, catching them off guard. So while it did look impressive that they've taken down G2's bottom lane, I don't necessarily think it's fair to say that Betty Sword Art greater than Sven and Mithy.
Well, and Sword Art, interestingly enough, just takes a little field trip into the jungle on the red side, coming in for H2k, and lays down a ton of vision there. It's a moment where Chase trying to figure out exactly where he went. They had the push priority, but Sword Art just walks in, lays down the vision, and walks right back out. This bottom side vision, I feel like, has been a big talking point when we look at how teams have been playing in this tournament.
You just want to establish that road, that shortcut behind the Dragon Path. If you get control of that, it's so easy to start cheating down there to get those teleports involved. All the top teams at this tournament have made their focus to play around the bottom side of the map, which is why that triangle vision there is so critical. We saw it when Rock's Tigers were hot, and we're going to see it when Flash Wolves are hot.
A little bit of vision drop by Karsa. Doesn't want to get caught out in the jungle here. Not going to look for the 1v1 in the end. Of course, challenging Smite coming in for Jankos, but has yet to complete the Warrior Enchantment. 15% damage reduction, all too crucial, but the Graves Burst, crazy as ever. Betty and Sword Art with both level 6. Minion spat up, spat back out.
And that's the tension right now, the fact that there is so much playmaking potential around the bottom side of the map currently. Both top laners have the teleport available. Both junglers are hovering around the side, but maybe Jankos looking for the first punch prop.
Not going to get in there. First blood already down, but he still wants to get some extra action on the bottom side. I want to take the less aggressive route, backing off, not seeing the opportunity they wanted, but this has been warded up, and it means they're going to know exactly where Jankos is applying the pressure.
And now the question is, what does Karsa do with this information? Does he head bottom, try to use the arrow, does he go mid?
For now, taking his time, hesitating. Both teams playing so cautiously around Vision, using everything they have to check a brush, but Fevivin, ooh, nice dodge out. Shockwave not going to connect. Oh no. Karsa goes over the wall, that's a ton of damage. Collateral damage goes wide, nice footwork.
And Fevivin absorbs so much pressure from the Flash Wolves right there. 2 huge key ultimates down. That said, trying to pot up so he can safely approach this tower. He can't do so without knowing exactly where Karsa is, but luckily Jankos is there to cover his flank.
And Maple, unafraid to move in now, contest some of those jungle creeps, bully out Jankos. Lays down yet another ward, but that could have been disaster. Already had push priority. You take down the mid laner as well, and they may just have lost tower first blood there.
It also slows down a lot of the tempo from Flash Wolves. We had kind of this big tension building. You know, everyone's looking bottom side. Now they kind of look towards that 2v2 in the jungle. And at least for Flash Wolves, that option is off the table now.
And really the question is going to be, where's the next big pressure point? For Jankos, though, it looks like it's going to be the bottom side of the map. But Flash Wolves have to see this coming, and they have the safety of the Tahm Kench.
Which means all eyes are on Che. He's got the flash. He has the longer range initiate. Typically harder to initiate with the Varus.
As Void Shift up as well. Not going to look for the dive, however. Jankos backing off. Both teams resetting consistently. Setting up in these lanes, looking for the play. Seeing the option is not available and backing off. But all it's going to take is one mistake at the right time, and either of these teams could find a massive advantage in the early game.
And both these compositions are fairly similar in how they want to execute, which is cool because I love it when people just run into the 5v5 and it just comes down.
Oh yeah, oh, surprise, surprise, the LPL caster loves the 5v5s.
I just love the team fighting, the intricacies of it. You know, who's actually on the right target, who's using these fine-tuned cooldowns and sidestepping, you know, the big key Graves ultimate like we just saw Fevivin. He's certainly been on performance this tournament, and he could be the game changer. You know, we saw maybe a less than stellar Azir performance from Mickey. Maybe Fevivin looking to turn around the champion's reputation at IEM so far.
Maybe not his initial goal when picking it, but it would be a nice caveat to everything else. However, opting to 5v5 Flash Wolves seems like a big, big decision and potentially a gamble for H2k as they've been struggling in those team fights. Very easy for them to play out across the map, but when they get to the late game, it's all too difficult.
They've been struggling in the coordination, particularly with how their bot lane is synergizing with the rest of their map in the 5v5. I still think that Jankos and Fevivin in particular have been on point in doing their job, carrying their weight in the 5v5. And Azir is certainly a champion late game that can punish that. The greatest thing about Azir into Orianna is that if we talk about, you know, looking towards that late game, since we seem so passive in the early, that both their power spikes are going to come at a similar times. It's not like Orianna's going to get a big window before Azir and punish. He's able to scale up, and he's not punished for being kind of that fringe pick because of his itemization so late.
So what's the difference here when we look at these late game team fights? If they're both getting their item spikes on time, if there's no crazy gold leads coming from either side here as we move into the mid game, how do these team fights play out? What do teams need to do to find a victory there?
I feel like it's actually much easier for Fevivin just to protect the backline. We saw them hover the Cassie a bit. And usually Cassiopeia works really well with Varus because she can protect him. You know, you're never able to dive back onto him. He can throw arrow after arrow. Whereas Azir, same kind of concept. He doesn't need to go in and to be that Azir set. He just needs to create zone in front of him and lay down poke. They're great at siege. Whereas Maple, there's much more pressure that he has to, you know, find that massive, big shockwave.
And while we're focused on the strategy, you can hear the fans here in Katowice cheering for H2k, calling for blood here. A little bit more active game. But it's going to take time. Once again, no one looking to overstep, no one looking to throw any advantages away here in game one. And everything seems even for now. No major CS differences across the map. No major gold advantage for either side. Both teams just looking to find something here.
And again, we have to say that it would go back towards the bottom lane. Should be noted, though, that Jankos is actually soloing Dragon right now. One of the perks of being the Kazakhs. Can do Infernal quite quickly.
Happy to have it, too. So many of the games we saw earlier today were first Cloud Drake, and now getting first Infernal for a team fighting comp.
And frankly, Infernal Drake on Varus is just straight up broken. It is disgusting. It is way too overtuned. Basically, Varus, you know, he gets to clear the wave. If he taps any one of your carries, at mid-game, he could pretty much half-health them if he's ahead of the clock.
For now, he's on clock. We'll see if he can continue to snowball that lead. But yeah, when you're building only AD, turns out percentage AD increases. Pretty nice to have. I love when we look at top lane.
Do you?
We just fight. They fight constantly, and that's what we want to see everywhere else on the map. But the only people who oblige us, Frostgurren, are the top laners.
You're about to see a fight bottom lane.
Ooh, Sword Art potentially in trouble. TP going in. Jankos wants to get some blood. Thick Skin not procced yet. Silence a little bit too late. Looks like they may have to walk away, but there's a TP coming in from MMD. This is ill-advised. He's in the middle of 4 people. Depth charge goes in onto Jankos. Carson may be looking to get something done. He goes forward. That's a lot of damage, but no one has dropped.
So brave.
Devin on the way down. Arrow connects. That's the part you were talking about, Frostgurren, but neither side dropping any kills. However, Flash Wolves have to back off here, and H2k may just look to grab the tower.
They lose so much off this. The gall of MMD to find such a late teleport. I mean, Karsa obviously calling that they wanted the fight, coming in a little bit late, but like you said, they lose tempo advantage right now. So H2k, yes, they don't pick up kills, but they get to move in, they get to clear out vision, take control over the dragon, or possibly look for chip damage on that bottom tower. Ping goes down.
Small advantage to have, but potentially could grow into a much larger one very rapidly. Maple hunting for some jungler blood. Not going to get the opportunity to move in onto Jankos. H2k now taking their opportunities to back out, and this is a good opportunity for Flash Wolves to trade vision. So at the end of the day, skills traded back and forth, vision traded back and forth, but nothing really amounts from it.
But it's all about those micro advantages. And kind of, we use the word tempo a lot. It sometimes doesn't seem very clear, but it's kind of where a lot of teams have fallen down, you know, prepping side lanes, making sure that everything's working in their favor so that when they do look towards these 5v5s, that they can absorb some of that punish, that if they lose it, you know, teams have to reset the map. Whereas if they win it and they've got all their side waves prepped, they have the tempo advantage, they then get to take so much more.
He just poked up. Nuclear doing his best to clear out the wave. Kars has shown his presence, so they have to be safe. They have to respect the dive potential. No Tom Kench, no get out of jail free card here for the side of H2k. They're not killing each other, Frostgurren. They're not killing each other.
We were so hyped about, you know, early game teams, explosive jungle matchup.
I mean, it's probably a sign that both teams are doing what they're supposed to do, that neither jungler can find these opportunities. We're not going to see it like we saw it in the previous series, where one misstep leads to Trick leaping into the middle of your lane.
But ultimately, that kind of puts H2k at the advantage here. They've already got one Infernal. Next Dragon's also going to be an Infernal. They have the Varus composition versus the Ashe as well as the Maokai. It's going to be very difficult for Flash Wolves comp come kind of mid-game to deal with Maokai.
Oh, lot potential opportunities here in the early game, but none really being used quite yet. And as you said, we're getting closer and closer to the mid game, almost a 20-minute mark, and only seeing one kill drop so far, one Dragon. The small goal lead for Flash Wolves, a little bit built up there in some of the side lanes and some of the jungle positioning coming in from Karsa, as well as the first kill, but nothing else to report on.
But it looks like H2k about to pull the trigger now. They've got their vision placed. Yanko spotted out by Hawkshot, but just here to provide some extra support to take this tower lower and lower.
Sword Art drops the ward, sees Jankos, knows he's relatively tanky, not worried about the 1v1. Tower not going to fall quite yet, but a lot of chip damage in the favor of H2k, and once again, small advantages.
Karsa looking to collapse on Jankos. In fact, both Betty and Swordart also moved into position to use the Tom Kench ult on him, but he wisely ducks out of the river. It's like, maybe that's the wrong way.
Don't go into the dark alley, Jankos. Not quite where you want to be.
And that's really been punishing them. You go back again to kind of the series that they've played over this tournament. H2k have looked so consistent and so good for the first, 20, 25 minutes of a game, but suddenly these towers fall and Febivin and Jankos start checking dark alleys and giving away advantages.
Can't afford to see any of that this time around. Wave pressure still going in the favor of Odoamne as we move more into the mid-game. Sunfire Cape not available with the Spirit Visage. Make sure that he comes out relatively on top in the vast majority of trades. And Jankos, as he gets closer to level 11, will find the second evolution. Most likely going to be the Spike Racks we see pretty universally.
Yeah, there's a lot of versatility with Kha'Zix, which is why teams are still prioritizing him quite heavily. He can go for that utility, having the Void Spikes there, acting as that multiple slow and kiting around the sides of fights. Typically, you would expect with a jungler with an MO like Jankos that he would go for more of the carry-oriented Kha'Zix, despite the fact that it's not as in meta.
Flashful's pushing onto this tower. There's a decent amount of damage coming in. Nuclear's going to find the ult. Sorart's going to say no. Dash back with the collateral damage. Devour to take him to safety.
And still, just this patient tug of war over the bottom towers. No one willing to pull the trigger, flash forward Malzahar, throw the arrow at all, which I actually find quite an oversight, but maybe I spoke too soon.
Oh, arrow goes in. Nice flash coming in from Nuclear. Suddenly, Maple and Swordart on the back line, but the lockdown, Maple is exhausted, may not find the opportunity. Shockwave only hits Che. Depth charge may be his death sentence, does drop in the end. That's going to be a kill traded over. Odoamne on the front line, but no one else is there to back him up. MMD working his way up, walking his way out, and Flash Wolves come out on top.
So many ultimates used on just the support from H2k. You'd think that they would find some sort of return punishment there, but Flash Wolves, great disengage. They take the support, they back up, but they're gonna lose their tower and another Infernal for it.
Double Infernal. RNG is in favor. Hi, Jankos. Good to see you, bud. Back to the game. Infernal's going to drop in their favor. Nuclear's going to grab tower first blood all on his own. That's so much gold into the Varus.
And that's tempo advantage right there. We take another look at this. We're saying, why aren't they throwing these arrows? Why aren't they pulling the trigger bottom? We knew it was going to come. Took a little bit longer. Starts with a great flash from Nuclear. Swordart comes into the background, but that was not the Uber Eats ride he wanted to take. He immediately gets locked down. And then it just kind of turns sideways here. They do manage to disengage, but the damage has been done. They've lost their health. You see the parting arrow shots from Varus, and they lose tower and Infernal. So what's Che's life for that?
Double Infernal. Gold just about dead even despite everything because of the 2 kills that Flash Wolves have picked up. But the later we get, the more important those Infernals are going to be. Pretty much 4 out of 5 members happy to have the AP and AD.
Doesn't even have to be late. See, that's the punishing thing and why I think it's so broken on Varus in particular is every single lethality item is a massive power spike. This is not the old school Infernal, at 35 minutes this is gonna hurt. No, at literally 20 minutes this is going to hurt.
Well, we're at about 22 Frostgurn, so the Infernal's gonna prove to be a giant boon in the flavor of H2k.
Those flavor boons.
Waiting kind of to see where the pressure is going to be next. And it looks like it's just going to be the continuous party on the bottom side of the map. Abyssal Voyage available again. Enchanted Crystal Arrow available as well. Febivin not going to take the risk with the ball.
And this is something Maple's been fairly consistent with over the course of the entire tournament, making sure that he always has the inside track on the enemy mid laner. But he's cutting them off, not letting Febivin just freely walk down there. And again, it plays off of Flash Wolves' great and consistent vision control throughout IEM. Whereas H2k, they've come out on top in terms of grabbing the dragon advantage and absorbing these towers, but ultimately, their vision is still quite lackluster on the map currently.
Need to see more laid down. You can see multiple control wards in the favor of Flash Wolves. They have absolute sight on wherever H2k wants to go.
It just means that they're funneled into reactive play versus proactive play, which is ultimately what put them in the lead anyway. It was, Flash Wolves deciding to pull the trigger, to look for the dive, and it was H2k reacting to it.
3 members going down to the bottom side of the map. No tower there to keep them safe, but the Tom Kench still has the power to disengage. Neither side, as you so put it, looking to pull the trigger quite yet. Jankos over the wall. Isolated means Swordart slowed up, but no damage follow-up here.
Febivin has to be careful, as does Jankos. Anytime they're walking in those tight corridors, you can see that Betty just finger on the trigger, looking for the arrow.
A lot of triggers.
I'm a LPL, I'm trigger happy.
Trigger happy, all right. Betty's down on the bottom side. Once again, things waiting. We're waiting for opportunities. We're waiting for someone to misstep, waiting for the game to kind of explode.
H2k have the pressure advantage bot side because the wave is pushing in. I like the fact that they're taking abuse of this, that they're going to contest and challenge the blue buff. Looks like they're actually going to get it for free as well.
Giving it over to Nuclear as well. Infinite mana for the Tear of the Goddess user. Should be good for him to have. Wave pressure will go in their favor. The tower's down, so they can start to push in much harder on this bottom side.
And also push in much harder on the mid tower as well if they want to, simply because Orianna doesn't have that blue buff, and she's not able to continuously wave clear as well as she would like to at this point in the game.
Yanko's gonna grab a red buff of his own. Malzahar moving up to help Azir secure the blue buff as well, so H2k clearly want to make sure that they secure these objectives, want to punish that Orianna, the limited mana pool. Only a Morellonomicon to help her clear those waves.
Yeah, and you can already see that Nuclear's kind of choosing a different lane. He's not immediately running down bottom. In fact, they're actually swapping here. Odoamne heading down bot to match the Ashe Tom Kench.
Knowing now, because of the way that they pulled it off, that they have the mana advantage on the top side, means Jankos invades the jungle. He's confident, lays down vision for the team, but it means that they will give up this bottom side tower. Betty all too happy, and Odoamne just a little bit too late to stop that one from going down.
But can they get one in return? Will Flash Wolves be quick enough to react on this? There's 3 members of H2k top lane. They need to be very careful how they traverse this top lane jungle.
Oh no, and there's multiple members waiting in that brush, waiting to collapse on anyone who wants to come contest the tower. So Nuclear is gonna grab this one. No one around to stop it. H2k maintaining even on gold here.
But here comes Odo. This is a pinch coming in from H2k. We're looking for a fight mid lane.
Keep your eyes on Maple, keep your eyes on the damage dealers. Sword Art can't save them all. And they're just gonna back off in the end. Flash Wolves now with the inside track up to Baron though. They can lay down some vision of their own. Once again, no major gold difference yet. 25 minutes in, 2 kills, 2 towers, 2 dragons, an extra tower for Flash Wolves. Just very slow and steady game, and no one's gonna face check that push, so H2k are gonna be safe from that.
I have a feeling it's about to speed up. I know it's like, they've been so patient so far. There's only 2 kills in the game, but it just feels like everyone's just waiting for that slight misstep. I was almost afraid
Yeah,
Maple was gonna pull
extend the word slight. Okay, Jankos is safe.
slight shockwave.
That's the thing. So much damage on the side of Flash Wolves, but with the Graves and with the Orianna, it's kind of that shotgun. They got the 1 shell, they got the 1 ultimate to shut this all down.
But Flash Wolves are on a timer right now. They've got a big wave building currently in the top lane, so H2k do have an advantage mid lane because Maple had to go up and clear top side.
Just being assaulted under the tower by the Azir. Redemption comes in to keep him healthy, but a decent bit of chip damage gets dropped down. Maple clears the wave and he's right back to mid lane.
Oh, but look at how patient they are. Like, I'm almost tensing because I'm waiting for, Orianna showed herself top lane, the Azir is going in, but, not willing to throw away the early game. Baron is in play, it can shred from both of these compositions, so H2k actually being far more patient than they've shown from the rest of this tournament. I like the change of pace.
Now moving forward, the Dragon's up, the Dragon's available. Ocean on the table, not the Infernal that I'm sure Flash Wolves would have loved to have, but they're in position to take it. H2k not looking to contest, they're running down mid lane instead.
Why not? It's Ocean at 27 minutes. It means nothing to them. The inside track on mid lane means everything to H2k.
Oh, they're gonna go in, they hook Jankos, that's bad news. He jumps out, leaps to safety. Arrow comes out, waiting for the engage. Where is the damage going to come from? Fevin, inside track to the mid lane, sapling for sight. No one's used too many major cooldowns quite yet. Arrow goes wide. Fevin looking for the disengage. Poke coming in from Nuclear, just constant and consistent. Where are they gonna find an opportunity?
Oh.
Jay, ult onto MMD, Jankos goes in, arrow over the wall, not quite enough. Where's the shockwave, where are the skills? Jankos stealths up, doesn't want to get eaten. Dodge on the hook, not quite landing. Nuclear, command protect, saving the day. Maple coming in clutch, but the wave is building. H2k is knocking on the door of Flash Wolves. Collateral damage says no, however, looking to shut that door themselves.
And ultimately, the book closes on this mid lane siege. Odo forced to reset the wave. MMD also relegated towards the top side. So we're gonna reset the map. It was tense. I feel like, Che, he's got the flash. He didn't flash that time. He went for the Malzahar ult when Nautilus just kind of walked in front of them, but H2k, I liked the patience that they were demonstrating before, you know, not willing to immediately dive the Nautilus Graves and Ashe when they saw Maple top. But in that fight, I feel like they could have pushed it farther.
And I agree, and this is the issue, right, is that the teams are still pretty much dead even outside of those Infernal Drakes. And at the end of the day, it was a Nautilus flash traded for a Varus flash, and that is risky business coming forward.
But that's the other thing, too. You know, why look to force those engagements, especially when Baron is in play? Ignore it. When you have the double Infernal, why not just sit back and wait for Varus to do his job?
Well, right now, they're just going to let Febiven do his, and as he breaks down the mid lane tower.
So it's the difference between playing high risk, high reward. You know, you look to engage, you force that flash Malzahar ult on maybe more of a priority target. Maybe you look for the Azir sec on that team fight mid, or you just wait it out. Let Varus, let Azir do their job. They're going to siege and pivot on the mid lane anyway.
At the end of the day, though, it is a tower for a tower, and H2k once again are pressuring down the mid lane, maybe looking to set up a pick. The Sun Disc is behind them. They have backup if they need it as Jankos throws out the poke. Here comes Nautilus on the backside, though. The tower may go down, but are H2k going to be safe? Tower still up. Collateral damage clears. MMD is here.
And another really crisp, clean decision from H2k. They back up to the safety of the Azir turret, aren't caught off by MMD coming up behind them, and just patiently wait for second wave to push down second mid.
Oh, but keep your eyes on the Orianna ball. They can't approach the tower. Threat of the shockwave. Maple pulls it back. Silence goes in. Minions are hitting. Decent damage. Ult goes wide from the Varus. Arrow comes out. Nice block. Oh, Edge of Night. Why are you so good?
The damage has been done. They take the two mid towers, opens up the map and the ability to place deep vision on whatever side they want to play. Should be the top side because that's where Baron is.
And this is kind of crazy. This is such a slow, steady macro game. It's such a grind out coming in for H2k when they've been all over the map with aggressive play for the rest of this tournament.
And that's why it's such a breath of fresh air. I can feel all the EU casters all over the world just sigh of relief. They're not playing the crazy H2k early game style. You know, they've slowed it down. They're playing a very clean, very patient mid game. And they can transition beautifully into late game with this composition.
Have to be pretty happy. Have to be pretty comfortable.
I say sigh. I can imagine Deficio's just like, yes, yes, H2k, this is what we wanted. The crowd's like, no, kill each other.
Maybe more violence yet to come, dear audience.
Don't worry.
Someone will try to take Baron. Someone will try to take Baron. I can almost guarantee it. Someone always dies when they try to take Baron.
We can guarantee it because, again, both these compositions, actually, it is much easier for H2k's composition to siege just because they do have the long-range safety of the Azir as well as the Varus. It's hard for Orianna to actually catch them with that shockwave without kind of putting herself in danger or acting on the utility of one of her teammates for a ball delivery service. Whereas, see, like H2k, they don't necessarily need the Baron to siege in, but Flash Wolves will 100% need Baron's assistance to siege into this comp.
So many short-range characters. Yeah, they've got a lot of those globals, the power to flank with that Tom Kent, but haven't been able to use it quite yet. Just a little bit too slow on it. H2k playing so patient as well and setting up the necessary vision, but now it's MMD once again. He's ready. He's on the backside. And then has he overstayed his welcome? Arrow's going to connect decent damage. Waiting, once again, the fight at any moment could come through.
I just love watching MMD just like slight step, just ready.
Am I in vision yet? Am I in vision yet? Can I flank?
Much better wave setup this time around, should be noted from H2k. They've got both their side lanes under control as well as now just clearing out the mid lane. And they're just constantly polling Flash Wolves around the map to deal, constantly reset, which means they get these numbers disadvantages.
Ooh, flash away. Sword Art's so cautious.
And that's what it's all about, you know. Pick two pushing lanes, create a strong side of the map, and then place your triangle vision and catch someone cheating in between their jungle to find the fast track towards those lanes. You force flash or you kill someone.
Well, this is really just when we think back, how did this game happen? How did H2k find the lead that they're steadily building for themselves? It's a single mistake. One over-aggressive moment coming in for Flash Wolves. And that's always the H2k story. It's the H2k moment where they get over-aggressive and they give up some kind of advantage.
No one saw it.
No one saw.
He hit that wall pretty fast. Okay.
Jankos walking away. Baron vision slowly and steadily being set up. MMD pretty perpetually looking for this flank. Said Jankos was the guy to hide in the brush and wait, but this game it's MMD.
He can certainly get it now. He's got a huge wealth of map to do so. Maple also on top side of map.
Ward in the river.
He was spotted out.
Not what they wanted. H2k actually, I think they sniffed this one out.
Yeah, MMD was
there he
spotted
is.
by the ward, so that's why they know he's here and they're making the collapse.
And he's isolated. Kazakh's just slowly and steadily going to rip through that health bar. Spider Knot makes it out to safety. Yanko's not going to overextend. Ash takes down the Sun Disc in the meantime.
Misspoke, was spotted by the creep wave.
Wow.
So, didn't check.
Shout out to the creeps.
Shout out to creeps. Thanks for bringing us passive information and vision.
Maple, though, clears out the top side of the map. Not always do we expect to see Orianna there. Usually she takes home in the mid lane, but with both turrets down, has to pick up farm somewhere. And Jankos is just going to now grab another dragon. Double Ocean, double Inferno coming through. H2k going to get their lion's share with 3.
But we're now at the magical 35-minute mark. Azir, Orianna, they're incredibly comfortable in their itemization. Jankos got another dragon. Crowd cheered for it.
I think they like Jankos Frost.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Jankos.
I like
That's
him.
fair.
I also like that Flash Wolves are trying to clear out the Baron pit here. So it's going to take a couple seconds. 2 clips before Karsa can make anything happen.
They are so loud. Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Yeah, I love it. I love the excitement. But it's macro. This is exactly what the fish you want. Yes, macro game audience. Yes!
To be fair, it's H2k were playing their macro, I feel like, a lot better about 5 minutes ago. They've lost control of a lot of their side waves, and it means that they've lost control of the Baron vision. It should bounce back to them now because the backs won't be staggered, so they need to reset map, push it back forward.
So then what is the objective here for H2k? What is the next step now?
For me, personally, I would like to see them try to pressure outer top tower. And again, I don't think that H2k need the Baron to siege into the comp. Yes, you have great wave clear with the Ashe and the Orianna. Yes, it's going to be frustrating, but you have double Infernal on Varus, and you can outrange and zone the Orianna, land those arrows. But to do that, you need to, get the creep wave up to the tower and be patient enough to have the time and the space to layer those arrows.
Odoamne dodges out on the Tongue Lash. Now moving forward, may just get eaten up here, but that's no Devour if they want to keep the fight going. Kha'Zix goes over the wall, but there's a TP coming in. This is the flank MMD wanted. Arrow goes from Avaris as well. Suddenly Nautilus is in the middle of the team. They're pulling back. MMD's fine for now. Redemption's a little wide on the team, but Odoamne will get some healing there.
And ultimately, a win for H2k. They get the teleport cooldown. Tom Kench quickly trying to get Karsa to the mid lane, but have they overstayed their welcome?
Not going to connect. No isolated slow there. They're just so close. They're so close to fighting.
But my problem is that H2k are it seems like kind of distracted with the 5v5. Yeah, they disengage from that, but again, MMD had priority push on bottom lane. That tower took a lot of chip damage.
Bebevin, that's bad. And goes the shockwave. Down goes Bebby. Nice pick from Flash Wolves.
Ooh.
Pings come out fast and furious. I mean, they're looking to take the top side. This is a window of opportunity that they wanted.
They've already moved onto the Baron. They've started it up. That said, Scuttlecrab did spot them out. H2k, they know this is happening.
This is what we promised, the fight in the pit. Jankos is over the wall. He's ready. Che can shut down the jungler's ability to smite if he gets that suppress off.
Which is why they pull off the pit.
Not what they wanted. They're now moving in. They have the man advantage. Nuclear using the ult will get knocked up in the end. Flash Wolves positioning on the side. H2k need to retreat. Flash Wolves control the pit for now, but no one will take Nasher.
But they will deny the blue buff, and now they're converging onto the top tower. So again, side wave management will punish H2k. Yes, they managed to stall out the Baron, but they still lose an objective in the end.
Not gonna grab it quite. Chipped down oh so low. Graves and Ashe ripped through those towers quite easily, but just not quite enough creeps, not quite enough time. Odoamne coming in at the exact moment he needed to.
They need to be careful with their backs, though. Again, this late in the game, people forget, Azir, kind of like Cassiopeia, can shred Baron. They've got the Kha'Zix, so...
Holly goes over, trying to leash Baron to help them out, trying to poke down some of the health from Jankos. Now it's the vision game, the bait, the back and forth. Who's going to find the window first?
I just like to call it the Baron dance. problem is that neither team is ever setting up a correct slow push. H2k do have one going for them on the bottom side. MMD's teleport is down, so if they can just be patient here, eventually someone will need to respond to that, or maybe they think they have a window.
Going in. Che does have ultimate. He can't stop Carson from getting anything done. It's getting lower and lower, but they kill it so quick. Baron dropping for H2k. Carson can't even make it in the pick, and that's exactly what you were talking about, the raw power that this team comp has.
Just a slight misstep this late in the game. The Azir, the Varus, the Malzahar, and the Kha'Zix, it just gets shredded. Still not perfect setup, but good enough to get the job done for now. We'll see if they can crack the base with it.
And you said reactive plays for H2k for most of the early game, but that was the proactive play they wanted to make. And they find the Baron in the end, even if it was a risky opportunity. Not going to be able to break that tier 3 quite yet. Not going to be able to open up the inhibitor, but they can set their sights on the bottom side of the map.
And that's the nice thing. They still have a bit of that wave to work with. Pressure both of these structures.
Karsa throws down the smoke screen, stops anyone from getting any auto attacks on the tower for now. Jankos maybe hoping to find a way over the wall, but they're not strong enough to tower dive.
But they could look to continue to exploit Baron in multiple waves. You know, someone could be mid lane with that Azir tower, pulling some of Flash Wolf's wave clear away from the inner objective.
Slow and steady, the siege starts. Cannon Creeps dishing out some decent damage. Maple taking a decent chunk of health as well. As you said, there's so much wave clear on this side. Even if the poke is there, it's going to take a long time.
But there we go. This is what I wanted. So H2k finally used their Baron buff in multiple lanes and are starting to pull Flash Wolves around. You know, if one of them missteps, they have crazy damage and pick potential to punish. It also will help them speed up this siege and this chip a little bit because Ashe, Orianna, they're not there to instantly clear waves.
Grinding down this tower. One of those cannon autos at a time. They've already got 2 stacked up. Piercing arrows going over each and every member of the Flash Wolves, trying to find purchase, trying to find some damage down. But Elder Dragon is up and available. And it's an objective that they're going to have to respect on the side of Flash Wolves. Essentially a 3rd Infernal Drake on top of everything else for H2k if they can take this.
And Flash Wolves have been dealing with clearing out these creep waves that they would have to check into this area blind. Never mind that if...
Arrow goes onto Febiven.
If H2k don't want to fight it at all, Febiven could have just thrown out the ultimate and shoved them all the way off of it. So again, we've slowed it down. H2k maybe lost the ball a little bit in the mid game, but they've certainly picked it back up late game.
It's looking good so far. Not a whole ton of time left on that Baron, but 3 stacks extra coming in onto that Elder Dragon. 180 extra true damage. You thought those Varus arrows hurt before.
But they just need to siege now then.
They're doing it. They're doing it. It's slow, it's steady, it's happening, Frosco. It's happening.
Okay.
Flash Wolves, though, not a team we've talked about as much this game as H2k have been kind of in the driver's seat. But what's left for them? How do they get out of this slump now? How do they deny these opportunities to H2k?
I mean, if they can connect their burst damage wombo combo to the back line, there's a ton of squishy members. It's fairly easy for them to get underneath Maokai as long as they look for those big flanking plays, which means that if H2k want to utilize a siege composition, they need to have really good flanking vision.
H2k, decent vision so far. But Awamne left alone.
They they get it passively though, just because Odo is creating such a big pressure point down here.
This is split pressure we're talking about, but there's no tank here on the front line for H2k if Flash Wolves can find a way to engage. If they can find a way to fire that shotgun shell straight into H2k. Collateral damage plus the shockwave, sure to kill at least a few members.
And you have to expect that Flash Wolves are going to get a bit desperate, a bit antsy here. You know that they're running out of time, that they're just trying to weather the storm of the Elder Drake as well as the Baron. There goes 1, there goes 2.
Moving forward. The audience is ready. They want to see a fight, and they may just get one. Not much left in the creep wave. Ult's coming out just to clear it. Flash will say no. They're going to take a fight. It's not going to be here. It's not going to be now. Just buying what time they can.
There is an easier objective for H2k on the map if they feel like they can't continue to siege into this. Although they've got good flanking vision set up, but they could also look to turn towards top side of the map, but they need to fix that big pushing creep wave.
Roscar, you asked for it. They want to siege. Shots go in, smites dropping. Jankos leaping out, nice To stop the staggering blow from locking him up under tower.
Odo's got tower aggro.
Ball's there. Redemption goes in to heal for now. One more creep wave, it could be it. The slow, steady siege. Are Flash Wolves willing to force the fight? Where's the Ashe ultimate? Where is the Orianna shockwave? When is it going to come out?
Certainly much safer now. Sword Art's in position. There's all 5 members, but their tank line, MMD, you know, he's lost half his health bar. Oh, but he walks around the corner. He's like, this is fine.
Still threatening. And H2k is still playing so safe, not wanting to risk anything.
While I respect it, ultimately this isn't what you want to get done when you have Baron and Elder. You wanted to get more. You wanted to break the base. The scary thing is it would be so heartbreaking for H2k to lose another game where they're in the driver's seat for 99% of it, just because the game goes late enough that it comes down to that 50-50 coin flip on a single team fight.
And it's terrifying because that's the coin flip that they've frequently lost. As we move here, they have so much power. We said that in their last game. First game against Hong Kong Esports, they had the Sivir, they had the composition they wanted, they could not make it work. We go later, and there's not a massive advantage, but Jankos is trying to make one. We'll burn down Karsa.
And there's still a big window that if this comes to a 5v5, at least within the next 10 minutes, H2k are still very strong. Betty, itemization, much more defensive than damage driven, so Ashe really isn't going to be that big, you know, doesn't have the infinity edge there. Won't be able to walk down a lot of these tanks, but is very safe.
Safe for now, partly because he's spending his time in the base. H2k, they're establishing the vision control. They're rinsing and repeating what we saw before. 36 seconds left till that Baron spawns. We've seen one fight there. Will we see another?
Odo's actually sitting on spawn, looking for a flanking play with TP. He does have deep vision.
Oh, no. Sword Art, that's not what you wanted. Out comes the Malzahar ultimate. Sword Art just gets deleted. No chance to use the thick skin, but TP coming in from Odo as well. He's going to move in onto MMD. Jankos coming into the party. Karsa not even going to turn around to help his teammate. MMD run into safety. They just try to make it out of this one. Jay locked up. Out comes the Ashe ultimate. Odoamne locked up. Collateral damage, not enough, but Maple's in the mid lane. He's pushing as fast as he can. What are H2k going to do next?
Because Karsa's still alive, it's a little bit dangerous to run immediately towards the Baron, but they can burn it very quickly, and Karsa's not going to get there in time. Yes, Maple is trading towers, but the Baron will go to H2k.
Oh, Baron number 2 drops in their favor. Maple's going to grab 2 towers just to make sure it doesn't stand completely against them. But H2k, they want a little bit more. They want to get Karsa as well. Jankos steps forward.
Maple's still going.
He still wants this. H2k now trying to back off. Can they stop the backs? Baron empowered recalls will make this all too easy. Jankos, he's going to have to outskill Maple if he wants to get that kill. Tower's going to drop. Where's Jankos? Stealth up, leap in, tries to get something. Shockwave stops the damage. Has the GA. Flash forward, hesitates for a second. Maple's made it out to safety. But H2k, they're on the top side. They break the tower. They're looking for the inhibitor next.
Without the big wave clear of Orianna,
oh,
Maple's
no.
still in trouble.
No, but here's the thing. H2k are just going to move into the mid lane. It's not Jankos who's stuck with Orianna, it's Orianna who's stuck with Jankos, but here comes the TP flank. MMD wants to keep the fight. Emperor's Divide comes out, shifting sands, conquering sands. Where is it? It's hitting Betty, but he's not going to drop. Jankos gets cut down. Maple's going to try to find more. He's stopping the creep wave from moving in, but H2k do not care. They're pushing forward. They want more. They say, sure, we'll trade you 1-for-1 on this inhibitor because Nuclear's taken down MMD, and they may just be able to close here.
But H2k have to look for the close here, though. All Flash Wolves have to do is absorb a lot of this. Yes, they still lose out. They lost the Baron. They lost 2 inhibitors, but you really shouldn't be able to trade an inhib for inhib mid, at least, when you lose the Baron.
It's just an insane play coming in from Maple. 3 towers cut through the mid lane, but we're going to watch this fight one more time to see exactly what H2k did.
So it's a really good disengage and immediate reset there from Febiven to make sure that MMD can't get towards that backline and cause a lot of this disruption. Then you see the late game damage potential from the Azir and the Varus. Like Nautilus's health bar, those tanky stats, they mean nothing.
Cuts him down. Now they're looking to clean it up. Super minions in the mid wave will make it a slow push, but they still have the Baron buff. Still have the power to push in. Now they're looking to break the last inhibitor standing.
But I mean, mid inhib for inhib, as long as those Baroned up creeps aren't there, it pretty much neutralizes itself. So again, it's really only kind of top inhib advantage for H2k off the Baron play, not the one that they would have wanted. They would have wanted to unlock that bottom inhib, the Baron inhib. Because unless, you know, someone makes a disastrous mistake here, the game could theoretically still stall out towards another rotation of Baron. I'd love to see H2k, especially off of that damage, step up.
Oh, Febiven, he doesn't have any way to stop that. Does have the Zhonya's, though, buying a bit of time. Shifting sands, flashes back. Emperor's Divide to buy a bit more. Sword Art's locked up. Thick Skin already used. He gets cut down. Odoamne's the frontliner they need. H2k are finding the fight. Shockwave only hits one. That's massive for H2k. Jankos moving forward. H2k backing off. They're not taking any risks here. They want to keep it clean.
And they can be patient because look at the top lane. A huge creep wave will be crashing into Flashwave's base.
Poking out Odoamne close to the teleport, but H2k back off. Pressure's in their favor. Elder Dragon 2 minutes out.
And this has really been a story of mid laners in kind of the last 5 minutes there. You know, Maple making the crazy play, able to trade mid inhib for mid inhib, but Febiven kind of saving this push there, was caught out by the arrow, but is able to reposition himself and ult beautifully with help from Che to lock down Sword Art.
It's the terrifying thing, right? It's so hard to find the backline. You talk about the short range, not making them good at sieging on the side of Flash Wolves. It also makes them pretty bad at taking down the Azir when he gets the setup he needs.
And again, it's this idea that, you know, Flash Wolves, their composition is so reliant on either finding the correct target with the Asher, you know, someone just making a mistake and overextending, or MMD getting the flank, because they simply can't reach the threats.
Oh, arrow's gonna go in.
They could just sit back and Odo's just gonna catch free arrows.
All's gonna go out, no one's gonna drop yet. Health bar's being chipped on both sides, but Febiven's poking in. They're doing the same. MMD wants to be the ball delivery service, but can't make his way into the back line.
And the wave will just win for H2k. Not this one that's feeding underneath them, but again, that continuous top wave. They don't, there's no onus on them to pull the trigger here.
Shockwave goes in, they're trying to cut through Odo. He has the locket though, so he will be fine. Decent damage on Jankos, Hook's not gonna connect. Jankos playing with fire here.
Someone needs to respond to the Nexus turrets.
Moving out. No creep wave there, though. For H2k, they don't care. They're going to move in. They're going to try to use the Voidlings, throw down a couple autos, continue a slow siege.
And this is all they really need to do right now. There's nothing left of relevance on the map for them. They're waiting for the Dragons to respawn. They're waiting for the Barons to respawn. So, again, that top inhibitor doing so much work.
And Hawkshot flies parallel to that H2k team as they walk down to the Elder Dragon. Flash Wolves know it's on the table. They know it's happening.
But this is where things get a little bit dicey. Now, the nice thing is that H2k, they got the early rotation onto the area. We've talked about how potent and powerful Azir is on these choke points in this arena, which is why I think it's smart for Flash Wolves just to give this one away. You don't want to face check blind into this. Febiven will absolutely destroy them.
Elder Drake drops, second of the game. Where's the next move? Just a slow siege, Frostgurren. They're grinding them out.
It's like that obnoxious sibling that sits next to you in the back of the van. You know, I'm not touching you. Just waving their hands in front of them, the John Cena, if you will.
Luckily, this car ride is almost over for the side of H2k.
Is it though?
That's what we're gonna have to find out, because the inhibitors are respawning, and that's gonna relieve so much of the pressure. But H2k, they walk in, they say, "Fight me." Jankos leaps forward, looking to taste some fear, looking to keep those targets isolated. Maple hoping to find that one ultimate. Can he turn it? So much poke, though. Half health already, and the fight hasn't even started. Jankos threatening.
That arrow was worth an inhibitor. Tagged both Maple as well as Betty, so great aim and performance from Nuclear so far on this Varus pick, showing why it was such a high priority so many times in drafts. That double Infernal paying for itself.
Yeah, put him in the Vice. You can give us the LeBlanc, you can give us the Varus. Flash Wolves chose Varus. Whatever they choose, it's still just impossible to play up against. Such a strong pick.
And Baron up in 18 seconds. They've now got 2 inhibitors. might as well push in the bottom wave. If they think that they can get this, go for it off the power of the Elder Dragon. Otherwise, it's again going to be a very easy and clean rotation towards bottom if they choose so.
Well, it's 3 members at the tower and 2 members in the base. Odoamne gets hooked up, but he's not the target they want.
They're gonna go
taking
for this
a lot
fight.
of poke. Yanko's poking on the outside. Tower's set to fall. This is the last chance. If Flash Wolves want to force the fight, they need to force it here, but they're just going to give up the 3rd inhibitor.
They're just getting smothered in their base. This is Flash Wolves passively losing the game.
H2k taking it away. Maybe they want to fight under double towers, but they're going to have to fight against double super minion waves as each inhibitor has now fallen. The crowd is behind H2k as they move in to close out this game. Flash will still have the shotgun. They still have that wombo combo of ultimates. But I don't know if they're going to find any purchase here.
As long as H2k are just spread out, just feeding all of these waves in because they're catching the creeps as soon as they're spawned, that wombo combo is unavailable because you're not going to hit the key targets that you need to. This is last chance.
Flank, MFD delivered to the back line. Keep your eyes on Maple. Where's the ball at? Throws it in. That's a 2-man. 2 carries almost taken down, but Bevivin, he's going to cleanse up. He's going to heal as he comes out. Not going to get in the end. He's looking to pull back to safety. Flashpool's trying to force their fight here. They are going to grab Che. They are going to grab Odo, but it's just a GA proc. Yanko's doing his best to disengage. Karsa looking to play the hero. Flashpool's buying just a bit of time.
And you can see Bevivin on your screen. He stretches. He's like, okay, guys, maybe let's slow it down a little bit. They didn't need to clump right there. Maple did find a nice shockwave. Ultimately, though, it's not enough to turn the game, but it will keep Flashpool's alive for now.
We watch it one more time. It's just the nice setup. Get the arrow on. Nuclear gets knocked up at the same time. Everything comes together. A ton of burst damage coming out there.
And ultimately, it's a good disengage from Bevivin, however. He gets the Azir ultimate out. They're able to walk out. Good communication. But, you know, losing the members, it doesn't punish them too much because Flash will still have to deal with the swarm and horde of creeps sitting in their base.
What you can see now in the picture-in-picture, Baron set in the sights of Flash Wolves. Until those inhibitors are up, it will just buy time, but it will stall them out. It will take them later.
What a gamble.
They're moving mid lane.
They're doing...
I mean, they're going to get it. No one's there to contest that. They have the man advantage.
But H2k knew that that was happening. They know exactly what's happening in Flash Wolves' base because they see with all the creeps in there. They're like, hey, 4 members are missing.
Yanko, though, at the end of the day, does not risk the steal. Does not want to give up anything when the enemy team is set to have Baron.
Or they could have just taken the Baron for themselves.
Only 2 members up, though, at the time. Of course, Flash was a priority on the map. Once again, slow, steady, patient. And you talked about them not clumping up, Frostgarden, and to be fair, you kind of clump up in the Baron pit. It's kind of unavoidable.
I understand, but I don't think H2k had to lose the Baron there. It does kind of stall out a lot of the pressure that these super creep waves can form. Ultimately, though, you still got 3 super creep waves.
I was like, that's a ZZ Rot. Looks like Flash Wolves have spent a little bit of time watching European games.
Buckle up, Dracos. I think that this one could extend longer.
Oh no, Frosco. You get a ZZ Rot, we get a ZZ Rot. H2k have a plan to push of their own. You wanted to play League of Legends? Flash Wolves, they did too, but now they're shifting to a game of old-fashioned tower defense because it's one remaining, one that is stopping H2k from closing out the game here with confidence. It's just been the grind. One mistake from the Flash Wolves. One aggressive Baron to come in from H2k.
Death by 1,000 cuts, I think, has been the story of this game. Just tiny little paper cuts, one at a time.
998, 999. Is this going to be the 1,000th?
They need to act. They cannot afford probably 2 more pushes on a tower like that. Again, still the reach and range of Azir and Varus are punishing these structures. Sword Art.
Oh, Nuclear not going to get hit. Yankos gives his life, but he has the GA. Odoamne still on the front line, but keep your eyes on Bevivin. Keep your eyes on Nuclear. Keep your eyes on H2k. Are they going to be alive? Nice shockwave to disrupt. Che is in trouble, but Bevivin and Nuclear are untouched, and they are dishing out the damage that H2k need. Sword Art still with the gray health, still buying time. Flash Wolves not going to grab anybody.
All H2k need to do is keep them away from the Nexus Tower. Again, they've still got 3 waves, 2 waves coming in.
One inhibitor is going to respond. Flash Wolves hold on for now. Doing the best that they can. Once again, just balanced on the knife's edge here. Flash Wolves continuously fighting these fights. So close to taking down H2k, but all they are doing right now is buying time. 57 minutes into the game, we're almost at 100,000 gold for H2k. And the gold doesn't even matter anymore, but the double Infernals guarantee they will be stronger at every point from here on.
As we take a look at this replay, so Jankos catches the arrow right there, gets pretty much immediately popped. Forced out of the fight, into the redemption, but at this point, Shockwave follows through, and H2k, they've lost the health. Febiven's trying to do the best that he can, but his target priority is Sword Art off the side and not any of these key members like the Ashe, like the Orianna.
Now moving forward. And a pause. And then, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're also going to be out of a pause. What a perfectly timed replay. Thank you.
Okay.
I was nervous. I was nervous. I think we all were.
The Baron is my big issue. They gave it away, and it pretty much compensated for Flash Wolves losing all of their inhibitors and afforded them the time for all of them to come back up, which means that, I mean, it's still dangerous for Flash Wolves to leave their base, but now it comes back to this 50-50 single team fight game. I don't like those games, Dracos. I wanted the clean macro. I wanted the definitive top European team.
Oh, arrow goes in. H2k. You can call them whatever you want, but they're not getting hit by that arrow. They're not getting taken down quite yet.
But they don't have the inside track on mid lane or the Baron buff behind them. They're on the back foot. Flash Wolves suddenly have tempo advantage.
Oh, and they can force them into this fight. And if they all come from the same side, you may just see the setup from Maple. Ball attached to MMD. Everyone's going to have to be careful. Jankos on the back side. If they pick a fight here and win, they will win the game. It's the same story for H2k.
I'm quite frustrated.
It's a slow siege. Flash Wolves setting up. We'll see if Europe has to be frustrated as well. The LMS could be proud as their team looks to turn it around. But here's the inside track you talked about. They're not quite on the table yet.
Now, Rot Portal top lane, big wave is pushing up. Again, it's not the super creeped wave, but it will threaten that inhibitor. As I say that, though, I believe Flash Wolves have 2 Rot Portals.
Yeah, also, there's a Rot Portal there from H2k. Not actually going to get the minions to the wave. They do a ton of damage to towers now, but they don't go very far.
Because it's neutral waves, though, it'll help it
push in the end.
Yeah, we'll keep more towards pushed Flash Wolf side. English. Give me more G Fuel.
So close. Oh, we're at this point.
We're at this point where we just continuously wait for 6-minute timers on Baron and Elder. It's my favorite
We're
point.
going to fight once every 10 minutes. We're going to fight once every 6 minutes. And if anyone at any point loses one of those fights, the game will end.
But it didn't need to be like this. H2k have, again, had control for 99% of the game. It's only recently that Flash Wolves got the tempo back. And the thing is Flash Wolves, they've played this 55-minute game, 60-minute game quite a few times. They have that notorious history of stalling out these crazy late games. And H2k, this scene has been very punishing to them. They don't have the greatest track record when it comes to late game decision making.
For now, looks like their decision is to move towards Dragon. Flash Wolves instead posturing on the top side of the map. They have a wave building up and a wave pushing. Remember, the Elder Dragon will not give the improved recalls.
Someone needs to go, and it looks like the entire team is going to go.
They see this. Flash Wolves take the gamble, but they didn't see them not start the Dragon.
Yeah, but that's the big thing, is that Jankos is on the Elder with Febiven, so it will be a team fight buff.
Oh, arrow connects. They're trying to buy time. Febiven Jankos will come in soon. Redemption comes out. Betty takes a ton of poke. Rocket cooldown used up as well. Febiven, where's he going?
If they continue to chase Flash Wolves, okay, because there was the option that Febiven could just run it down mid lane, try to take the inhibitors, but H2k being very cautious, being very respectful of the engage potential from Flash Wolves, don't want to chase them to deny the recalls.
Oh, but you have to be careful. You can't walk into one of those pinches. You can't let Orianna hit those multi-man shockwaves. Flash Wolves aren't giving up anything either, though. They're backing out slow and steady. They're not leaving any stragglers behind.
And this late in the game, because there's no room really for control wards or vision in general. We really need to keep tabs on blue trinkets when they're available. It is noted that Flash Wolves have 2 of them, H2k only have 1. So if you ever lose control or vision of this Baron area, so punishing.
Yankos spots that one target. Odoamne's on the flank. This could be bad. Karsa's all on his lone stump. Betty gets eaten up. Sword Art's now running to safety. Devour. Betty trying to get free. Sword Art will be the sacrificial lamb, but it doesn't matter. Betty's gonna get cut down. No, he lives. Maple comes in on the backside. Odoamne goes forward. Shockwave goes wide though. Massive for H2k. Collateral damage doesn't mean a thing. Both teams back off briefly. Odoamne comes back from the GA. Karsa's taking a ton of damage. Yankos wants the reset. He goes down. GA's up. Karsa drops. So does Maple. That's massive for H2k. They're moving into base. They want to take game 1. Betty, the only thing standing in their way.
But here comes the cavalry. MMD flushes.
MMD onto Nuclear. They want to get him down. They want to dish out the damage. He's exhausted. They're not going to get him in the end. H2k holding on. 80 carry still alive.
Just kill the inhibs.
They're on the way. Inhibitors down. Nexus tower moving forward. Betty, will this be his hero moment? Can H2k close it out?
The tower's dropping quickly. MMD trying to get on the front line.
Trying to move forward. Odoamne, health bar steadily dropping. Betty low as well. Nuclear taking his time. They lock up MMD. Arrow goes in. Tower
just
not going to drop
turret.
yet. They're going to take MMD. Gonna get the tower. Nexus is exposed. Yankos goes in. Betty! Not gonna drop in the end, but MMD goes down. That's gonna do it. H2k take game 1.
And it looked very scary for a second there for the European fans. But in the end, it's actually Yankos that goes massive late game. He knows he has the GA, and he trades it for not 1 carry, but 2.
At the end of the day, it was long. It was the death by 1,000 cuts. But H2k make every single one of them.
But it was still messy. H2k, again, very clean early game, very conservative. It rotated into mid game. You're like, okay, you know, they've learned from their mistakes of the tournament. They're being much more cautious, but almost too cautious at this point. They almost kind of went completely the other direction, afraid to pull the trigger ever, afraid to really step up to the plate in siege. It wasn't until 63 minutes in that game that Yankos finally found the courage again.
Such a crazy game. And I mean, really, cannot wait to see how game 2 unfolds. Cannot wait to see what the analyst desk has to say. But for now, we're going to toss it to a quick break. When we get down, the Scoundrel and crew will be breaking down game 1.
Goodness me, that was a long game, controlled from H2k. I mean, let's start off with the obvious question. Why was that so long?
Xscandal, a question that I often regularly get asked, but a part of it was largely due to the Azir. I mean, the amount of wave control and the amount of poke that H2k were able to throw out made it very difficult for the side of the Flash Wolves to really force any objectives and force any fights.
Sure, it was difficult, but at some point, you just have to man up and do something. We saw them make one proactive move maybe 50 minutes
when they had
into the
3
game.
inhibitors gone.
Yeah, that's when they lost everything. It was like, hey, maybe there's more pages in our playbook, and they decided to finally do something. Really just bizarre game. H2k being very cautious, however, but overall they get the victory, so the props go to them.
Let's put it into perspective. 45 minutes or thereabouts was the first time H2k actually picked up a kill. They dominated the map without even taking anybody. And a lot of it all started from about 19 minutes 45, you know, that kind of time area where it was an attempted tier 1 bot lane dive by the Flash Wolves that didn't actually go in their favor. And actually, H2k managed to turn things completely around.
But here's the thing, that dive was a great proactive move from the Flash Wolves. Right here we have it once again, the arrow is going to get flashed by Nuclear, and then the Abyssal Voyage will bring Orianna. So the dive gets a little bit hindered because of the silence, but they get a 1-for-0. The Death Strike will finish off Che, and then they all back off. The issue is that Dragon is up, so H2k walk away victorious with the objective.
And this is one of the criticisms that we had of H2k, because they didn't overcommit for the kills. They didn't try too hard to try and claw something back. Instead, they saw an objective on the map to take, and they realized, hey, we have now a minion wave in the bottom lane that we can push. No one on the enemy team is there to defend it. There's an exposed dragon that we can go for. And even though they end up losing one member, they end up getting an infernal dragon and the first tower of the game. So it ends up being a net gain for H2k.
And you have to wonder if the Flash Wolves felt a little bit scared or hesitant to go for that same kind of play once again, because we saw the success of it, but I think that they felt uncomfortable when it came down to the 5-on-5. The tremendous amount of kite damage and CC from the H2k lineup makes it really difficult for you to try to fight it. So it was only very late in the game where they decided they could use Abyssal Voyage with Nautilus once again.
And, I mean, you saw, and we talked about how long it took for H2k to actually get down into a teamfight situation. Everything was just based off these sieges that they kept having, those rotations that they kept having, the towers that they were crushing. And that's how they generated their gold lead. And, Andy, you had a point about Forbidden and his Azir. It just, you know, made it very difficult for Flash Wolves.
I mean, when you look at both compositions, right, you have a lot of wave clear. Both of them are very scaling. Both of them are very poke-centric. And it's simply a matter of who's able to get the early advantages. And off the back of that early objective play from H2k in the bottom lane, that's where they started setting up for a lot of these objectives. So it was just simply a battle of poke, push, poke, push, poke, push. And it was simply because of the Azir and Varus. The Varus in particular is what consistently gave H2k the edge when it came to pushing out these objectives.
And then we had a little bit of a kind of mid-game wobble, or late-game wobble even, where Maple decided to walk straight down the mid lane and try and solo take the inhibitor, and H2k didn't feel super comfortable in their response.
This was Maple just salvaging the game, because the control that H2k had in these sieges was quite apparent. They felt powerless, and so Yanko's bases with the Baron and tries to 1v1 the Orianna to no avail.
The big thing about this play in particular is the fact that if Jankos had spent more time just keeping Maple busy, this actually would have freed up H2k to just concentrate on getting themselves the inhibitor. Instead, they have to trade that exposed inhibitor with the Flash Wolves, which enables them to stay in the game for longer. And it wasn't until this late in the game where we started to see the Flash Wolves trying to make these proactive plays and trying to fight their way back into the game.
And H2k maintained control of the river area for pretty much the whole game. We never really saw Flash Wolves get a look in at Elder Dragon. We never saw Flash Wolves get a look in at any dragon, or even the Baron too. And H2k controlled that completely. Even with all of that control, even with all of these buffs stacking up, we still saw in the late game, Flash Wolves had what it take to beat them in a team fight situation, which we saw at that bot lane inhibitor fight that happened at quite late into the game when we were looking at close to 100k gold apiece.
So that's because the Flash Wolves felt comfortable. Oh, we're going to take another replay here. The Nautilus and Tom Kench going into the backline, but watch Orianna. She's going to flash in with a shockwave, hits both carries at the same time, deletes Nuclear, and so when you compromise the double carry and leave only Kha'Zix with no isolated targets, this is an easy win for the Flash Wolves.
And you think that if you're H2k, you can just slowly work your way into the base. They're relying on the super minions to be the big facilitators, to knock on the doors of those Nexus towers, slowly just break out the game and stick to how they've been playing. They weren't expecting this full-on aggression from the side of the Flash Wolves, but when you back a wolf into a corner, it's naturally going to bite, right? And that's exactly what they did late into the game.
Except they decided their corner would be the next.
Yeah, right? Not the optimal corner, but yeah, exactly.
I mean, they had that Baron, the one Baron that Flash Wolves took that kept them in the game. You know, like Frostgurian said, it was compensating for these 3 inhibitors that came through.
So it was right after that play. But the issue was that the Flash Wolves felt really awkward around Baron. They overcommitted to many things that really should not have happened. The first Baron was taken out of a pick on Azir. And so immediately they say, all right, let's go ahead, let's bait the Baron. And instead of recalling right after, using the time that Azir has been dead to reset, they choose to go for a bizarre tier 2 siege, which compromises their position and HP for the next Baron. So H2k just said, all right, thanks for the Baron. They go ahead and take it, and then the game is theirs because that siege composition, think about all the zone you've got. Evolve W from Kha'Zix, Azir, Varus, Malzahar, it's too much.
And finally, we saw that big game-ending team fight from H2k, which I think was on the back of an Elder Dragon that they'd just taken, and they finally...
The second one.
The second one, yeah. I mean, we got that far into the game. Guys, this was that game-ending play.
The reality is that H2k, I think that their idea was to take things calm and take things calculated, right? They didn't want to over-aggress. They realized that one of the big faults that they had versus HKE was that they did not entirely respect their opponents. And I think coming into this game, perhaps a little bit too much respect from the side of H2k. I felt like there were many times for both teams where they could have pulled the trigger a little bit quicker, because the reality is it shouldn't take 60 minutes to close out a game.
And that big shockwave miss in that fight was insane because, like Crumbs so efficiently pointed out, that Orianna late game, that's what she's meant for, the shockwave on the carries where possible, and missing that was a death sentence for those guys. Right, has a long game to analyze and a very short amount of time to do it, but we are going to cut to a very short break, and when we come back, we'll have the second game of this series where H2k will be vying to make it an all-EU final.